The morning of June 15, 1904, dawned bright and clear over New York City. The East River glistened under the summer sun, a ribbon of promise weaving through the bustling metropolis. Along the Manhattan docks, a festive crowd gathered at the piers, full of chatter and laughter. Among them were the parishioners of St. Mark's Evangelical Lutheran Church, a tight-knit German-American community excited for their annual outing. This year, the SS General Slocum, a proud sidewheel steamboat, was their vessel of choice. Built in 1891 by the Knickerbocker Steamship Company, the General Slocum was a marvel of its time, stretching 235 feet in length and capable of carrying over 2,500 passengers. Its ornate interior boasted grand saloons, fine woodwork, and ample space for leisure. However, the ship was not without its flaws. The vessel's construction included large quantities of highly flammable materials, such as painted wood and oil-soaked ropes, which would later contribute to its rapid destruction. Additionally, its safety equipment, fire hoses, life preservers, and lifeboats, had not been properly maintained or replaced in over a decade. By mid-morning, over 1,300 passengers, mostly women and children, had boarded the steamer. The church outing was a cherished tradition, a day of relaxation and communion for families who spent much of their lives toiling in the city's factories and tenements. As the General Slocum pulled away from the pier, its whistles sounded, a cheerful note cutting through the air as the passengers waved to those left behind. The voyage began as expected, with music, dancing, and the excited chatter of children. Mothers unpacked picnic baskets, and young couples strolled along the decks. But beneath the festive veneer, the General Slocum carried silent dangers. Its safety equipment, including life preservers and fire hoses, was neglected, a grim truth that would soon become evident. Shortly after 10 a.m., as the steamer made its way up the East River near Hell Gate, a fire broke out in the forward section of the ship. The cause of the fire remains uncertain. Some accounts point to a carelessly discarded cigarette or match, while others suggest a spark from the boiler. Whatever the origin, the flames quickly took hold, feeding on the vessel's dry, flammable materials. Eyewitnesses described scenes of unimaginable horror. Survivors recounted seeing flames engulf the ship with terrifying speed. Smoke filled the air, and the sound of panicked screams and cries for help overwhelmed the festive music that had played just moments before. One passenger, Anna Weber, later described how she clutched her 2 children and desperately searched for an escape, only to find the lifeboats lashed tightly to the decks. The lifeboats could not be deployed in time. Another survivor, Jacob Stahl, recounted how he jumped into the river and swam to safety while watching others struggle against the current or succumb to the flames. Panic spread like the fire itself. The crew, poorly trained for emergencies, struggled to contain the blaze. The fire hoses, rotted and brittle, burst under pressure, rendering them useless. Life preservers, ostensibly there for safety, were discovered to be filled with disintegrating cork and weighted with lead, causing those who wore them to sink rather than float. Amid the chaos, passengers faced impossible choices. Mothers clutched their children, debating whether to jump into the swirling river below or remain on the increasingly infernal ship. Some leapt, only to be overwhelmed by the current or weighed down by the ineffective life preservers. Others succumbed to the smoke and flames. Captain William Van Schaik, who had commanded the General Slocum for over a decade, made a fateful decision to steer the burning ship toward North Brother Island, hoping to beach it, and allow passengers to escape. But the distance was too great. By the time the steamer reached the island's shore, the fire had consumed much of the vessel, and many lives had already been lost. On North Brother Island, hospital staff and residents rushed to aid survivors, pulling people from the water and tending to the injured. Despite their efforts, the disaster claimed over 1,000 lives, making it one of the deadliest maritime tragedies in American history. In the aftermath, grief and outrage engulfed New York City. Investigations revealed gross negligence by the Knickerbocker Steamship Company and lax enforcement of safety regulations by federal inspectors. Captain Van Schaik was convicted of criminal negligence and manslaughter, serving several years in prison before being pardoned. The tragedy left an indelible mark on the German-American community, and the city as a whole. St. Mark's congregation, devastated by the loss of so many of its members, struggled to rebuild. Public outcry led to stricter maritime safety regulations, though the reforms came too late for the victims of the General Slocum. Today, the story of the SS General Slocum serves as a somber reminder of the cost of negligence, and the fragility of human life. The disaster remains etched in the collective memory of New York City, a poignant chapter in its rich and often tumultuous history.